On this week's episode, Alan and I are going to be looking at the history of youth nationals. You'll want to stay tuned for this one.
You're listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, celebrating hunting dog heritage, competition, and community. United Kennel Club has been the hunting dog sports home for coonhounds, beagles, retrievers, pointers, cur, feist, and more for over 125 years.
Welcome back to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. This is Trevor Wade. I'm the Coonhound Program Manager at UKC, and I'm joined today by the Director of Hunting Ops, Alan Gingrich. What's going on, Alan?
Yeah, today I'm wearing my flannel. It doesn't know if it wants to be 80 degrees or if it wants to be 40 degrees, but today it happens to be about 45 degrees. So I bundled up a little bit this morning. Kind of almost feels like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like March, but it's been kind of chilly the last couple days. But no, hey, I'm doing great, and I had a day off this week. A Tuesday I took off and back in the swing of things here again. But yeah, I'm looking forward to our podcast today.
Yeah, it's kind of been with this weather. It's kind of been nice, probably on some mornings and evenings, to be able to get out and run the dogs a little bit. I'm sure
it was yesterday afternoon. I worked from home yesterday, and I turned the old fiddle loose and also the pup, and they put on 10 miles before I fetched them up last night. Just in the afternoon, just running back there behind the house. So yeah. And the running was great. It actually rained quite a bit, but it seemed like every time I stepped outside, I could hear them. I'd had my hand held outside there and checked them every now and then, and heard them most of the day. That they had almost 11 miles on them actually. So.
Well, we're going to be digging into the history of youth nationals, and man, this has been kind of fun. This will be the fourth time that we've dug into the history of UKC administered coonhound events way back in the very beginning of the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast, back on episode 8 already. So a long time ago, we went through the history of Autumn Oaks, and that was pretty early on in our podcasting days. Then not too long after that, I guess several months after that, we did the history of Winter Classic. I think right before Winter Classic came, to kind of look at its history with you and Todd. That was a fun one to do. And then most recently, episodes 121 and 122, we had a two-parter where we went through the World Championship. And obviously there's not too much history for TOC to go through right now, but Youth Nationals, this is the 25th year of this event, which is kind of hard to wrap my head around.
That's a milestone. It started in 2001, I guess, so it kind of follows the year, obviously, here. But, yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long. We've got some notes here that you made up, some of the history stuff, and looking at some of the kids that won it back there in those early days. Shoot, their kids are now, some of them, their kids are now competing at youth nationals and this and that. That's the cool part, I think. One of the coolest things that I see.
Yeah, and we're going to go through a lot of good stuff here. For 2001 being the first one, that was before even you came on board, and I assume back in those days there was probably some clamoring for a youth national championship of sorts, and they picked a place that's kind of near and dear to a lot of people there, Shelbyville, Indiana, for that very first one.
Hey, I remember, though, when, it was before my time. I started in 2004, so the first one was about 3 years before that in 2001. But I do remember there was a lot of talk around the clubs and this and that, when UKC was starting this Youth National Championship or Youth Nationals deal. And matter of fact, one of the first winners in the bench show, I think it was one of the first winners anyway, was a young kid that used to come to our club a lot and show, and he was one of those young kids that was kind of beyond his years at the time, showing dogs, and he was kind of a little celebrity in the region. Aaron Kersey was his name, and yeah. And I think he went on to win that first bench show there or whatever. But so there was a lot of buzz around it in those days, and I remember when it first came out, just the buzz around the clubhouses.
Yeah. Starting out, and it's probably how pretty similar to how it was when you first started going to them in 2004. Is you had to qualify for them to compete in the championship hunt on Saturday night, and I think you qualified by doing well at the state youth championships throughout the year.
It was the state championships, yep. That, and I think there might have been a couple other events that were also qualifiers, but yeah. So it was kind of a big deal. It was a big deal, to try to get kids to get qualified and be able to enter youth nationals.
And then also on Friday night, kind of a warm-up night of sorts for those who are already qualified, but also you guys labeled it kind of a last chance qualifier, that if you weren't able to secure a cast win or get qualified throughout the qualifying year at your youth state championship or one of the qualifying events, then you had a chance there if you win your cast on Friday night to advance to that championship round on Saturday night.
Yeah, that is right, and I think we separated the qualified kids from the non-qualified. So there were like 4 different categories, the seniors and the juniors, and then separated them one more time from qualified or not qualified. So, but everybody got to hunt, and a bunch of them, 10 more got lucky, to get in the championship on Saturday. But then even on Saturday we also had a 2 hunts there. I had a hunt for those that were qualified, and then just a regular open event. So that's how it was for quite a, the first I don't know, when we'll go down the list here, we'll kind of probably see when that format changed a little bit. But it was after I was here, obviously, and I don't know. I'm gonna guess that's been probably half of it.
Yeah, for sure. I want to think early 2010. So, and like you said, we'll get there, but I think it was early 2010 sometime. But yeah, this first hunt, getting people there, like on that Friday night, had 50 kids show up to hunt in it. Ended up having 37 kids that were eligible to hunt for their portion of the scholarship money. And I think that's in our first conversations, you were kind of, I don't know, you were happy to see that ever since the inception of Youth Nationals, there's been scholarship money divvied out here. At the beginning, $2,000 for the top 4 highest placing dogs in the qualified hunt on Saturday night, for a total of $8,000 in tuition awards that were awarded here ever since the very first one.
Yeah. I didn't realize it went all the way back to that first one, that they already did that tuition award for it. But yeah, that's kind of cool to see, and that's held up. All these years, for 25 years we've been doing that. But yeah.
Yeah. First Master of Hounds.
Hey, Trevor, do you know where some of this money came from back in the early days?
No.
This tuition money, so that, for between 4 kids, that adds up to basically, $8,000, I guess, is what it amounted to. But there used to be a fee, and there still is obviously a fee for formal complaints. So formal complaints throughout the year were for complaints that came in. Somebody, you didn't agree with the Master Hounds decision, went to a panel, and you could file an appeal to UKC. Those appeals cost X amount of dollars, but that's part of what went into the youth fund.
Okay.
Those monies, if we didn't refund them, or whatever, they went into the youth fund. So that's kind of interesting that it used to go into that.
Yeah. I'm sure there's several guys listening now who contributed to some schooling for some youth out there.
yeah. So.
I'm looking at the officials here for the first hunt. Randy Riggs was the Master of Hounds for Friday night, and Jim Simpson on Saturday night. And you're probably more familiar with him than I am.
Hey, Jim Simpson, you would have loved that guy. He was one of the old field reps, and Jim was a very, very likable guy and a very classy guy. And he was down close around Shelbyville area, I think, and around that area there. But he was just a nice guy. And then you mentioned him, Randy Riggs. Randy was down there close to Indianapolis as well, and somebody I knew well. And the other one, I don't want to jump the gun here, kind of jumping ahead here, but Lindell Price is a name, another field rep. Lindell judged the show. Lindell did so many firsts for UKC. Whether it's judging shows or whatever. But the one that comes to mind, he judged the first ever Winter Classic.
Yep.
And he did a lot of first events like that. And here he is again judging the very first Youth National show.
Yeah, I want to think. Yeah, he's been involved in a lot of major shows. I'll need to go back and look at some of my notes for the historical stuff. But he was involved in a lot of the World Championship bench shows. Might have been involved in the very first one. I'm trying to think on that. Yeah.
He was. You're right. He was very first show he judged, World Show.
Yeah, and he got the nod here as well. On the hunt side, the very first Youth National champion was Kenneth Emerson. Kenneth was 17-year-old from Arkansas, and he was hunting a dog named Grand Night champion Ozark Mountain Mondo, and he ended up winning the whole thing with 750 plus on Saturday night. But the way it worked out, the top 4 plus point cast winners on that Saturday night qualified hunt each got $2,000 in tuition money. So, of course, Kenneth got his $2,000. Nick Brady of West Virginia, who's still pretty active in the hunts today, got a $2,000 tuition award. Amanda Rittenauer of Pennsylvania, and Tiffany Ely from over in Pennsylvania secured her some as well. The judge of the show, like you said there, Lindell Price, and another one of the first for UKC judging this Youth National Championship. And his winner that day was the young fella you already mentioned there from Indiana, Aaron Kersey, only 14 years old at the time, showing a dog named Grand Champion Sidearm Big Deal. Those were your two first Youth National champions.
Yeah, I actually still remember that dog as well. That dog showed at one of our qualifiers at our club one time when I was a judge, or might have been the Hoosier National or the Hoosier Championship, Hoosier State Championship. But yeah, that was a nice dog. But yeah, there's that Aaron Kersey, only 14 years old at the time, but he was kind of a kid that just kind of he was very well groomed, a good handler there, and went on to do a lot of shows and do a lot of winning for sure.
I should mention before we move on, the show was just simply a standard show, not like our Youth National is today. And again, we'll get to that, but essentially they all showed. They all, no matter your age or anything like that, you entered, and grand males, grand females, champion females. Yeah. You took your 6 category winners and you picked your overall winner, and that's the way that the show was there. Hunt, same thing. There wasn't a senior winner and a junior winner. Here when we're talking about this, there was just one overall winner. They did draw out separately, same as it would do now, 5 to 12 and 13 to 17. But then you take the best scores regardless of if it was a senior or a junior, and get your overall winner from that crop.
Yep, there was no hunt off of any kind. It was just based on those scores from Saturday night. That's simple. And I think they were, to the best of I think they were 2-hour hunts at that time too. Matter of fact, I know they were. Yep. So yeah. Hey, moving on to the next year in 2002 for the second year. Again, same weekends in July, same everything. Went right back to Shelbyville again for the second one. And probably by all rights, I think the word on the street was after that first one, everybody was really satisfied. It was a good event and went off well and everything. So that was the first start of it. Went right back to Shelbyville again. This one got note here where they brought in Phil Newland for the first time, and he did a judging or a show seminar for the kids, and that's did that in the second one here. So I've seen Phil do some seminars. He's done some for me in the Beagle program even, and he was very knowledgeable and always did a good job. So I'm sure he did good there. And what better way to kids will listen to anything educational like that. They just probably more so than adults will a lot of times, and there's not a better opportunity for little educational things to pop in at the Youth Nationals like this. And so the second year they did that, and same thing again. There's a couple other names that come up at the second one as far as officials and such. One is Mr. James Brown. James Brown helped us at Autumn Oaks for a lot of years. He was another one of those Jim Simpson, where there was Jim Simpson and there was also James Brown, and is a very very knowledgeable master hounds involved for a lot of years, and he was the master hounds there. Another name that comes up from the state of Pennsylvania, Larry Packey. Larry Packey was probably push kids events as much as anybody did. He was he was a unique guy, Larry was. He drove an old station wagon, and most of his dogs he hauled in this old station wagon. But Larry was quite the individual, and he was a funny guy, and he was quick-witted, and he was a personality.
Redbone guy, right?
He was a Redbone guy, but he was also a UKC field rep. Yeah. But he was involved there in the at the second Youth Nationals. But there Saturday night looks like they had about 70 entries. The first one they only had 50 entries on Friday night. I mean, they jumped up to 70 entries there at the second one. So the numbers increased there already at the second one, and overall they had in the show, it looks like, or in the hunt, they had 32 entries in the open hunt in the first one. In the second one, that already jumped up to 48. So already in the second year, you see an increase there. Same with the bench show. The first year they had 51 entries. Second year that jumped up to 76 entries. So that shows that there was a lot of interest in a first event like that. That's why they're pretty important. So it sounded like they were headed in the right direction. And so yeah, back at Shelbyville again, and the winners that year were the overall night hunt champion was a 12-year-old kid from Indiana, Todd Perry, and he hunted a dog named Perry's Ridge Running Bow Sackett was the dog, a Treeing Walker male. Don't have a score for him here. I guess you couldn't find one in the history books for a score for him. But second place was 500 plus, so he had to have a score better than 500. The four scholarship winners, obviously that year, was Todd Perry was one of them. Another one was here again, Amanda Reitenauer. The second year, 2 years
Twice
in a row
already
for Amanda. So that bumps her up quickly to 4,000. Back in that time, that was pretty huge as far as for scholarship money goes. Hunter Miller out of Texas, all the way from Texas, Hunter Miller. And then Michael Sasso of New Jersey. Those were our scholarship winners that year, the four. And then the bench show winner was probably a name that you Beeland. And it was the oldest of the Beeland sisters. We've heard a lot of in the last 10 years of Autumn and her sister. But this was Amanda Beeland, who was 15 at the time. And she was the second winner from Pennsylvania there. And she showed a black and tan. Autumn and her sister Amelia, they showed walkers and English, but here it was their older sister Amanda actually showed a black and tan one with Midnight Black Hawk, and 15 years old at the time. So there's year number 2.
Yeah. Moving on to 2003, so the third year here. It actually was not in July for the only 3 times it happened where it fell into a different month, twice in August here, and this one was early August, but again in Shelbyville, Indiana. So the first 3 years of the event, it's there in Shelbyville, Indiana. James Brown was the official on Friday night, and a familiar name here as the Master of Hounds for Saturday night, Mr. Steve Burkholder. He came and did it for us did it for them on Saturday night. Another big jump in the entries. You talked about going from 50 to 70 on Friday night in those first 2 years. Now we're jumping all the way up into hundreds and breaking that barrier for the first time with 104 entries. On Saturday night in the qualified hunt, you got 69, and in the open 54. So we're talking about some real numbers here that are starting to stack up. And at the end of all of that, the night hunt champion was Nick Brown, another kid from Pennsylvania here who was 17 years old, and he won with a dog named Alexander's Duster. Treeing Walker had 7 1/4 plus. He got his $2,000 in tuition money, and he was joined by Trey Perrin of Alabama, still a name that you see hunting and competing today, Kyle Vance of Ohio, and John Davis of Texas. So the Texas kids are doing pretty good up here in the first few years. The bench show, we're breaking another barrier here. We jumped up from 76 in the prior year to 100 this year. So in the century club here, to speak. Bench show judge Jackie Carpenter, still someone who's really active on the competition scene today. Actually judged the finals of our World Championship a couple years ago in Mount Gilead, Ohio. And she selected a really familiar name for anybody keeping up with the show these days, Mr. Joe Moore. Only 13 back then from Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania kids are doing pretty well here. And Joe was showing Grand Champion Divided Acres Little Joe, plot male. So he still has some plots that he shows from now and then, but also got some pretty nice looking Walker hounds too. But Joe had a good year there in 2003.
Then the next year in 2004, they moved the event back to July again. Looks like the last weekend in July, but moved it over to Ohio, Medina, Ohio, and a place we've been several times, but this is the first time for Medina. Numbers stayed very consistently about the same there. Jason Freisinger, I remember him back in those days, but he was the official, looked like he was the Master Hounds. He was a younger guy at the time, and as compared to Jim Brown, Jim Simpson, and some of the other Master Hounds they had up to this time, this guy was kind of a spring chicken there, but nevertheless, I remember that guy as well. John Embry judged the show that year. But the winners that year were, the night hunt winner was a 16-year-old out of Texas again. Man, those kids had to drive a long ways from there, but had good support out of that state. Ronnie Lester there hunted a dog named Rock River Skeeter, a female. He scored 825. And you've got it noted here. I wouldn't have known this here, but you made some note here, Trevor, that the storyline there on Ronnie Lester was that he didn't have his easy entry card with him that year, or his registration papers for his dog, so he couldn't hunt a dog. You know, back in those days, and we didn't have the conditional entry thing. So if you didn't have all that stuff, you didn't get to hunt your dog, and even here at the youth hunt, you know. So
all the way from Texas and get
all the way
from
Texas. It doesn't matter if you're from, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
All that didn't matter. But here the story is this: It says the UKC staff and the Medina Club found this boy a local dog to hunt that was owned by Bill Napier, and that would have been this female, that Rock River Skeeter. And how about that? He goes on to win this hunt. But yeah, that's a story cool there. So yeah, so the winners that year, the top 4 kids that won the tuition money were Ronnie Lester, as I mentioned. Then there was another one. He's got him listed being from Ohio. Might have heard of him before. A kid named Kevin Cable.
Familiar.
Yeah, familiar. And it is still the Kevin Cable that went on to do a lot of things in the hunting world for sure. Dakota Ketterman of West Virginia, he was another one, and then Will Bach of Kentucky. And then the bench show winner that year was a kid out of North Carolina named Ethan Kennedy, and won with another black and tan. Sandhills Black Beauty was the name of the black and tan female that he won the show with. So that was in 2004.
Was that your first one, Alan, or is this next one here your first one?
The next one was my first one, so 2004. I started at UKC in the fall of 2004, so after the Youth Nationals and all that. Yep.
Gotcha. So
you're right. We went right back to Medina again the next year.
Yeah, you headed back to Medina last weekend in July.
Yep, and I remember that weekend like it was last weekend, really.
Well, you want to take this one?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it mentions here the first, I had to make a note in here. It says a 10-year-old Daniel Patrick and his family performed at the event. And, the first, I've combed through these magazines before, and that may have not meant something to me, a year and a half ago. But then last year at Autumn Oaks, I got to meet Daniel and got to see him and his family perform for us there on Friday. Is it Friday night? Friday night at Autumn Oaks. So that was pretty cool to see, and he's been doing it for a long time, I reckon.
Yeah, here he was only 10 years old. His little sister, Samantha, I think was her name. She was like 7. Yeah. And we had him set up. We started them just before the dinner started, and they just lined up along the outside, along the, building wall there or something. We had them set up. They did their spiel there, and that was, looking back, I still have photos of it and everything, but Daniel has went on to record with some big name bluegrass artists in Nashville, and he's become quite the musician, but yeah, that was cool. I remember seeing them. Just that they were so nice and respectful when they were little kids, and him and his dad, and then his mom played the stand-up bass, and Daniel played he played some guitar that night, acoustic guitar, and he played the banjo, and then his little sister Samantha, she played what did she play? A mandolin. But yeah, I can still see him standing there along that wall of the building, and they did a great job. And he was already good. The kids were really good back then, 10 years old.
Really, really enjoyed listening to them. That would have been a hoot. Numbers here pretty consistent. Mentioned John Hembry was the bench show judge the year before. Here he takes over Master of Hounds duty, and again a really competitive hunt. Ended up the overall winner that year, the youth national champion, was James Tyree II, a 10-year-old from Indiana. So up to this point, that's our youngest winner. He won with a dog Champion Night, Champion Moles, Salt Creek Kiss. This Tree Walker female was 625 plus. And he got his $2,000 scholarship. And the others that were in the money that year, Ethan Van Horn of Ohio, Paige Gwynn of Illinois, and Andrea Overturf of Illinois. So those were your $2,000 tuition award winners. In the bench show, Janet Emery judged it for us. She actually judged the first one I ever attended, but we'll get there later on. But she had a 79 dog show, and the winner was Cole Vanover, a 16-year-old from Kentucky, and he won with Grand Champion Tree Picking Magic Man, Tree and Walker male.
Yep, there's another name somebody might still remember or know. Cole Vanover. He's still showing dogs today and showing them on the big stages everywhere, showing dogs all around the country. Yeah, Magic Man is actually a dog owned by Roger Webb that belonged to the Silver Lake Club there, our neighboring club back home or whatever. So that tree picking Magic Man's a dog I probably put a couple of wins on old Magic Man. Yeah, so there's the first 5 years, of youth nationals, but those were the early years. And it's just cool to see some of those names. James Tyree, that mentioned this last one. His dad obviously still hunts a lot. I still see them, And another name that, this dog that he won with was Salt Creek Kiss This, and that was obviously Jerry Mall's dog. And James Tyree and Jerry Mall have always kind of been partners, for a lot of years, and they were hunting one of Jerry's dogs here. So the next year, in 2006, moved back to August again, first weekend in August, moved over to Indiana again, to Portland, Indiana. Same place we're going for the World Championship this fall. But yeah, the entries still look pretty good. Bench show judge, or the Master Hounds, is Dick Warville. He was from the Wayne County Coon Hunters, and I think he had kind of pretty much retired from the scene by the time you started, Trevor.
Yeah.
But for a long time, he was a staple at Autumn Oaks for the Wayne County Coon Club there. And he was a school teacher, a great guy. He was an educator and just a good guy. Did a lot for the sport back in the days. So he did all the Master Hounds that year in Portland. And then the show judge was another, Amanda Alexander. And at this time, I'd say in 2006, she had to be pretty young still, But yeah, there we go. She was the judge. The winners here, and I remember this young lady, Emily Free. She was 14, out of Peoples, Ohio, I think is where she was from. Hunted an English dog named Newsom's Dan, scored 925 plus. And I remember I was like, holy cow, a girl has just won the Youth National Championship. And I think that's the first time, right? I think that's the first time for a girl to win the Youth Nationals. And her whole family they supported the Youth Nationals, and they had several kids there that were handling dogs. But so she was one of the tuition winners there in that first year, Emily Free. And I think probably if you look, every now and then you still see her name still involved. Went on to a lot of other things. But Brandon Rugg out of Michigan here was the runner-up, and Anthony Barksdale of Ohio, and then Cole Clark of Ohio was in fourth place. Cole Clark was one of Kenny Clark's boys, and just good kids. The Clarks, Kenny and his family always supported Youth Nationals for a lot of years till the kids all aged out here. But Cole Clark was a winner there. Chelsea Officer was 17 at the time, and would obviously be Christina Officer's daughter out of Kentucky. She showed County Line Liberty Bell, a Plott female. And Liberty Bell is a name you see in a lot of pedigrees, probably still in a lot of the Plott show lines there. But that's what Chelsea won the show with, the overall show that year at 17 years of age, 2006.
Next year in 2007, it was back to late July there, and you guys made the decision to take it down to the southeast, down to Madison, North Carolina, which is a place that hosts a lot of events. They've done Southern English Days for how long now? They've had some successful events down there, RQE and different things. And he see a first mention of our good friend here, David Garden, one of the more active masters. You tell me this. Obviously, you think highly of David and have known him for a long time. Talk about it. If you were to stack it up, he's probably officiated right up there at the top of as many events as anyone else. And I know he would have not balked at having a chance to help out the youth.
That's absolutely right. And I'll add this. That was probably 10 years ago already now, when we used to say that he has officiated more than any other Master Hounds in the UKC history, and I'll bet that record still stands today.
As good as they come, always really willing to help out. That this year, just a young man here, Dawson Burgamy, a 9-year-old from Georgia, was your Youth National Hunt champion with a dog, Booger Hollow Dixie. Owned by Robert Raxter over in North Carolina, and he ended up winning the whole thing with a score of 375 plus in the qualified hunt on Saturday night. Other ones to get the tuition award that year, Adam White of Pennsylvania. Here we go again, Joe Moore of Pennsylvania. So now he's had a showing on each end of it here, the hunt and the show. And then Joseph White of North Carolina. The show this year was judged by Amber Bradford, who actually just judged the Winter Classic for us. And she's selected as the Youth National Bench Show champion this year to be Cody Maney from North Carolina with a dog named Braveheart. This is a Plott male here, so Plott's win for a couple years in a row. But Dawson Burgamy and Cody Maney were your national champions there in 2007.
Yeah, that Braveheart was a dog that was winning a lot during that time. It was owned by John Millage out of North Carolina. I think actually Cody Maney might have been from maybe Kentucky. I don't think he was in North Carolina. The dog was in North Carolina, but I could be wrong. But the one thing I remember about that event, a couple things. You mentioned the Dixie dog, Booger Hollow Dixie. was probably a Booger Hollow Mojo. I don't know if she was off of I don't think she was, but I remember Mr. Mojo himself, Mr. Booger Hollow. He was there as well, and he was one of Dawson's biggest fans, or supporters there. Robert Raxter, I remember he was there, and they got it done with 375 down there. The one thing I will remember about that event, it was so stinking hot. It has never been hotter. We set up a tent outside the club there at the Madison Coon Club there, where Southern English Days is, and all those. We set up a club, set up a tent. Yeah. And I remember about 10 o'clock before the show started, it was 114 degrees under that tent. I was just like, we are in such trouble. I was so worried about dogs overheating and this and that, and but it all turned out fine. I don't think we had any issues like that, but the other thing, kind of a funny thing I'll remember, I flew down there for this one, and Wayne Cavanaugh at the time was the president of the United Kennel Club. He also came down there, and he flew there too. So he didn't come in until, I don't know, he came in after I did. But so I think it was Saturday morning, so I had my own rental car, and he had a rental car. And when I pulled in there, you know how they do at the counter when you get your car. They want to ask you if you upgrade. Okay, for like $7 a day more, you can upgrade and you can get this nice car.
Yeah.
So I remember I took the upgrade. I thought, you know what? I've not driven a Mustang in hardly ever, and I had me a Ford Mustang for my rental car.
There you go.
And here's I pull in the lane. It's kind of a long driveway back through there or whatever. Here comes Mr. UKC with this Mustang in here, this rental car. And there I pull in there, and Wayne Cavanaugh's standing there, and he's got this just a regular old Ford car at the time, and it just didn't look right. But he kind of looked at it. I thought, oh man, maybe I shouldn't have done this.
Rolling in style.
I know. Oh, shoot. I had it kind of backwards probably, but for some reason I remember that. But it was a nice car.
Yeah, I like that.
But yeah, so there you go. So next year, is it my turn here?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2008, Newcastle, Pennsylvania. Newcastle, Larry Hawk, another UKC field rep from Medina, Ohio area. He was a field rep at the time. He was the Master Hounds. Andy Elburn ended up judging the show that year, and I remember Andy was pretty young still, but I still remember that event well too. That's the first year we had a dunk tank. Wanted to do something different, and we decided, you know what, a dunk tank is going to be the ticket. And I remember Vicky Ransdaughter and I went out there and put on from UKC, and the big mistake that we made is we had, for liability purposes, I had to be the one in the dunk tank, and kids wanted to get in there, and we had to keep the kids out and everything. But I remember there was a kid from over there in that area. His name was Corey Groover, just a young punk, and he got in the tank somewhere. And somebody took a picture of him, and he's doing one of those Corey things up there in the inside, and he's pointing up there like this, and there's a picture like that somewhere. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to chase this kid out of the dunk tank or whatever. But the big mistake that we made, the fire department came out there to fill up the tank, and they didn't fill it up until the morning of the event. You talk about some cold water. I remember it was cold, and there's a couple other things that weekend, but it was a good weekend in Newcastle, and a good facility there as well. But hey, this one is the winners that year. The overall winner was a kid out of Tennessee, a 12-year-old kid, Ryan Frederick. And I just talked to his dad just this week, Alan Frederick from Tennessee. You may or may not know him. His boy Ryan won that first one with a Walker dog, Spark Stylish Clyde, scored 462.5 over there. And this was also the first year we gave, I remember we had a dead tie for fourth place score, an unbreakable tie. And I remember that morning, Will, and I was like, okay, we have not even thought about what do we do if we have an unbreakable tie. I just thought could not be right to just flip a coin for $2,000. So I actually called, I just mentioned Wayne Cavanaugh. I called Wayne Cavanaugh from home that morning, and I told him what we had and what his thoughts would be. And if he would support just doing another scholarship, or what he thought we should do here, and if he would support that idea. And he didn't even hesitate. He said, absolutely.
Yeah.
Just put him in. We'll send him $2,000 as well. So that's why we had 5 winners that year for the scholarship. So those winners again were Ryan Frederick from Tennessee, and Trent Kreutz of Pennsylvania, Dustin Stanley of North Carolina. Dustin was from out on the east coast of North Carolina, and that's kind of where I think I might have met their family the first time, maybe at Medina. But I still always, when I see them, their family, I always think of just the Youth Nationals events. Always think of that. They're just great people. But their boy Dustin was one of those. And then Madison Back of Ohio was another one. And Emily Free. I think those were the 2 that were tied. So 2 girls again. They're Jerry Back's daughter, and there's Emily Free again. Those were our winners there. In the show, we had mentioned Andy Elburn judges that had 80 entries that year. And that year, it went to another one of the Beelan girls. Autumn was 12 years old at the time, from Pennsylvania, and with a little Walker female named Beelan Shining Little Angel was the overall show winner. But yeah, a lot of memories from Newcastle, Pennsylvania.
The next year, 2009, in the 9th iteration of it, it went to Holmesville, Ohio. And man, it's a club I've always wanted to go to. You guys kind of rave about it in the articles a little bit about how perfect it is for an event like this and the accommodations and everything. And every time I've been scheduled to go there for an event, it seems like something turns up, whether it's a tornado or another event popping up or this and that. But going through and combing through it, to me, this looks like it's the largest hunt that Youth Nationals hunt that's ever happened. It had 121 entries on Friday night. On Saturday night, with the qualified and the open hunt together, you had 145 entries. And man, that's pretty competitive. And here we go again. These girls are doing pretty well here. We have Madison Back. She was the youth national champion that year in 2009. She's 12 years old now, from Ohio, or at the time, and she won with Back's Twin Creek Mad Maggie with 400 plus. So pretty large hunt there, and she ended up winning the whole thing with 400 plus. The other scholarship winners that year: Henry Kidd from northern Indiana there. Cole Clark of Ohio.
Helped us judge at the TOC this last year, I think, didn't he?
Yeah. Cole Clark from Ohio. That's the second time we've mentioned his name as a tuition recipient. And then Cole Ruckle of West Virginia. The show that year, 96 entries, and we have John Hembry, and he did everything that week, and he was the Master of Hounds, bench show judge, wore all the hats there in Holmesville. 96 dogs to comb through, and the winner was Bridget Clary. 17 at the time, from Virginia, and she won with her own hound here. Clary's High Speed, This Bud's For You, Trey and Walker male, and Bridget still winning a lot of events to this day. But I did, sometimes combing through those articles or something that sticks out to you, and I had to chuckle a little bit talking about you. You guys were doing some dash, and I think they have a pretty good a place there to do. Obviously, they have a really good water race pond. Good place to do. You guys were going to do dash races this year for the first time. The club was kind of wanting to do so, and they had live coons at the time. And you're sitting there giving instructions to the kids on how it's going to happen, and you actually have the coon there in your hand, and you sit down the cage to talk to them, and somehow or the other the door to the trap jimmy's open, and all the kids start going up in a ruckus while you're talking, and you turn around and you say the coon is scurrying across this field away from you guys. So I had to chuckle a little bit at that. That's pretty good.
Yeah, that was, I remember it still. I would have forgot about that. It was went out to, there's a big area where they set up campers and all that stuff out the back where they also have their field trials, and there goes our dang coon. Yeah, now that
they had a backup.
You mentioned it.
They had a backup.
Hey, the other thing that I remember about that, this was also the first time that I think I did a little educational thing while they were drawing casts or putting all the casts together and all this kind of stuff. We had 20 minutes, so I had all the kids in there in that pavilion. They had at Holmesville, they have this open-sided pavilion, and it's not very wide, but it has like support posts down the center or whatever. So we've got a right and a left side here, and so I had the kids, if they thought. So I had this question, and this was your choice of answers, one of those deals. If you think this is the right answer, everybody move over here to the left side. If you think this is the right answer, move to the right. Okay, so my very first question, I don't remember what the question was anymore. It was a night hunt question, like a rules question of some kind. And the first question, all the kids except for one, went to the left side. One kid stayed over here, and he was the one that was right. Out of all these kids, like 100 kids, I thought, oh boy, this wasn't working out the way I think.
If the last man standing was the winner, then he did pretty good. A pretty quick game.
No question, we had a winner. Yeah. And I think the only reason he went to the right is because everybody else went to the left. He just wanted to be, he wanted to be different.
Yeah.
But I remember that about that hunt. So yeah. Hey, so the next year, what are we? 2010 now?
Yeah, 2010.
2010. So moving on here, back to Madison, North Carolina again. Second year with a funny story about a coon. What is this one? I guess I don't remember yeah, I do remember now. That kind of coming back to me.
Yeah.
Here again was something about the treeing contest or water race or something, but dogs got loose prematurely and tore the coon hide right off of a Coke bottle that it was wrapped around, according to David Garden, I guess, huh?
Yeah, it was. I guess David was the one had the dogs ready for the water race, and they had kind of a coon put together. They didn't have a live coon. They had one that was a hide stretched across it, and the dogs, he let his foot off of the release, and the dogs got out, and they tore it all to pieces right there. So
yeah,
a little bit of a false start, but
I can remember a little bit about
pretty
that.
funny there. I can imagine David was a little flustered there.
Yeah. There again, David was doing the officiating Master Hounds on Friday and Saturday night, and entries were solid there again, and same with the bench show. 95 entries in the bench show. Lisa Bedingfield judged that year. Back at Madison, North Carolina. Winners that year, another girl here. Caitlin McGinnis was 15 out of the state of Ohio with a Grand Night dog named Tricolor Nowhere's Banker. That dog was running the Prina series at the time and did a lot of winning there. But yeah, I had 975 plus is what that dog scored there. Our tuition winners that year were Caitlin McGinnis, obviously, Dawson Bergamy. Now, this is the second year that we see him in the tuition there from Georgia. Zach Wagner out of Indiana was a winner, and then Shane Sorrells of Maryland was another. Those were the top four. Bench show winner that year was another 17-year-old young lady that is very recognizable today still, Melinda Hicks out of West Virginia. She was showing a dog named Grand Champion West Fork River, rumor has it. So it's a dog that she won with quite a bit there, but that was in 2010. So there's 10 years under, 10 years history there for the Youth Nationals.
Hey, Alan, I don't know if you've been messing around with this new Houndsman Advantage app at all, but I've been playing with it some, and it has some really cool features on it. One, it has the interactive scorecard view where you can assign strike and tree points at the touch of a button, and it automatically totals your scores after each set of points are scored and valued.
Yeah, no, I like it as well. Some of the features that I like is that you can access the rules and that it comes with a search function to easily find any specific rule. Also like that there's a place for your dog's registration numbers, and you can store pictures of your easy entry cards. I like that you can track two dogs' performances when out pleasure hunting. You'll find some analytics on your dogs. You can record their accuracy, win percentages, and a whole lot of things like that.
No more lying here on this app. The last thing about the scorecard I'll talk about is it has the summary view as well, where you can see the total points you have and the pending points that you have, along with tree timers for each dog. So it's going to come in handy for judges as well. So check it all out on the new Houndsman Advantage app.
For the 11th.
Next year after that, we go back to your neck of the country.
Yeah, the 11th year here in 2011. You guys head to Decatur, Tennessee. A lot of people know that as the 10-Mile Hound Association, but you guys went in there into town there where the fairgrounds is. Great numbers here this year as well. Had over 100 dogs on Friday night, 107 dogs, and then the Saturday hunt was really good here. I just did the math real quick. 133 dogs on the Saturday hunt. And the overall winner was actually a good buddy of mine, a guy I kind of grew up hunting with there, Wyatt Barnett. He was 15 at the time, hunting a dog named Wyatt's Midnight Showcase. Scored 650 plus that Saturday night, and I actually had a chance to hunt with Case, and man, he was tough to hunt there, especially Wyatt. This is his home club there. It was hard to beat him around his spots there for sure, and. So he won it that year. You guys increased the tuition this year. Obviously, a few years ago, you guys did the $1,000 payout when you had the unbreakable ties, but this year it become a staple of the event. And moving forward, you guys handed out $10,000 to each at each youth nationals. So each of the top 4 got $2,500 scholarships instead of the $2,000. And the recipients that year, of course, Wyatt. Then you had Lauren Lester, Mike Lester's daughter of Indiana, and man, she's grown up and has kids of her own running around Walker Days. I just saw her a couple weekends ago down at Walker Days. Dakota Trent of Tennessee, and then Caleb Patrick of South Carolina. Those were your recipients this year. Vicki Rand judged the bench show this year, and Vicki, I think you worked with her for quite a while. She had 72 dogs to sort through, and the winner that year was Justin Hogan, 16-year-old from Pennsylvania, handling Midnight's Hardwood Abbey, Treeing Walker female.
Yeah, I remember one of those. Alan Roberts still is there at the 10 Mile Club. They're the ones that hosted it, and I remember getting there, had everything set up, and Saturday morning, Friday afternoon already. We're waiting, for kids to show up for our last chance qualifier, and there were not many people there. I know Alan was kind of like, he was worried. He was like, where is everybody? And as it turned out, he's like, I've got all these guides, and we've got way more guides than we're going to need. As it turns out, at the time, I think that was a overall record number that we ended up having there for that. So it was just, everybody just kind of came in a little later that year for some reason, kind of went from where is everybody to boom, here they all were, and had a good crowd. So the next year we moved it back to Indiana again, Rochester, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis, kind of between South Bend and Indianapolis. Rochester, you've been there for Walker Days. Now, it wasn't right in Rochester. It was right off of 131 at a different facility. I think about that a lot when we go down that road and past that. It's before you get to pass between like the Prue Club and down in Indianapolis. It's right in there. But here, Tony Ford came down. He was a Master Hounds and the bench show judge for us that year, did everything. He was another, lives here right not too far from the UKC office, actually, here in Michigan, but is a black and tan guy, and he was a field rep for a good number of years there. But our winner that year was a 12-year-old girl again from Georgia, Mindy Carroll Register. Hunted a English male dog, scored 625. The dog's name was Memes Buck Creek Roller, and I remember that well. Another girl winning, So hey, the girls are really always had a lot of girls hunting at youth nationals. The first couple of years the boys won, but you're seeing more girls, being winners and stuff like that after, we've had quite a few of them up till now. Yeah. $2,500 winners, again, Mindy Carroll Register. Abdul Hunaidi of Illinois was there, I remember him. Nate Moore of Indiana, and then Hunter Bebout of also of Indiana was another winner there. Bench show champion that year was Autumn Beelan. She's 16 years old here now, so this is the second time she's been the overall champion out of Pennsylvania. This time with her English male that did a lot of winning, Will's Mountain Bullberry. So that was the 2012 Youth Nationals. 2013,
and now it seems like we're kind of in the heyday of this event. And honestly, you could probably speak to this more than me. This about 2009 through 2013-ish is really a high spot in UKC's entry history. If you look back on the history of Autumn Oaks and Winter Classic and World Championship and things like that, you guys had some incredible numbers around that time. And 2013 was no different. You went back to Holmesville, which seems to always pay off for you guys. 108 on Friday night hunted, and then you had upwards of 150 dogs hunt on Saturday night between the two categories. And Larry Hawk was manning it again as the Master of Hounds all weekend. And we have a two-time winner now. The first two-time winner, night hunt national champion, is Ryan Frederick. He got one when he was younger, when he was 12, and now he wins a second one here at 17 years old. And this time he does it with a Redbone male, Grand Night Champion, Copeland's Tennessee Sweet Ben. Won it all with 600 plus.
Yeah, I mentioned I just spoke with his dad just literally this week while we're recording this, and we were actually talking about old Ben a little bit.
Yeah. Good memories for sure, and he was one of the scholarship tuition recipients. Also was Bryson Bailey of Ohio, Wyatt Miller of Ohio, and Alex Sechrist of North Carolina. Dale Parrish from Ohio was the bench show judge on that Saturday. He had 74 dogs to sort through, and when the dust settled, he selected the bench show national champion to be Kyle Flynn, who's a 15-year-old from Pennsylvania, and man, the Pennsylvania dogs are kind of cleaning up here. When you look at the history of this event, he won it all with the grand champion Midnight Lady Antebellum, a blue tick female.
Hey, one name that pops out that I remember about Alex Seacrest. Alex and his brother, and I apologize, I don't remember what his brother's name was, but they were young boys at the time, and I was very impressed with their knowledge of the rules. Their dad was, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and it was, their dad was one of those that he was just so respectful and taught their kids, what was more important to him was teaching them the rules and putting decent dogs in their hands and such. But the one thing, of backing up a couple of years when we were in Tennessee at 10 Mile there, another thing I remember about that is after the first night we hunted 2 hours. That's what all the hunts were 2 hours, even the kids' hunts. And there were some kids, it was pretty hot that weekend, and there were some kids that it was just too hot for them to hunt that long. Some of them wanted to hunt an hour. So that was kind of the consensus that first night on Friday night. There was some buzz around and talk about it and everything. So I told the kids that night, hey, tomorrow morning, we're talking about Saturday morning, I'm back in Tennessee now a couple of years before this, and actually it was this Alex Seacrest that came up to me. And I remember his dad came up to him, and he was one of the first ones to bring it up. And his dad just kind of stood off to the side and let him address this with me. And I remember it was him, and about, if we could do something about maybe bringing it down to an hour instead of 2 hours because of the heat and this and that. But the way that he addressed this to me, this idea, and proposal to me there at that event, I don't know, just for a kid that young, it really spoke to me. But it was then that night when we drew out casts, I told all the kids, like, hey, tomorrow morning before the show at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever the time was, I want to call a meeting with everybody, and we're gonna talk about this. And we're going to talk about, I want to see the consensus of what your thoughts are on whether if we make this hour hunt or 2 hours or what have you. So, and we did that the next morning, and it was kind of mixed a little bit, but it was probably leaning more towards an hour. But there were others that, and at the time we didn't have hour hunts, but it seemed like a good idea. But that's where it was also then that Saturday night, what we did a middle of the road, and that was our first 90-minute hunt.
Oh wow!
But it was Alex Seacrest that brought that to my attention. I want to say he was like in the junior division still, but the way he addressed it to me, and his dad let him do all the talking and stayed out of it, I still remember that. Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah.
But that's where the 90-minute hunts for youth hunts were born, right there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good story.
Yeah. Kind of started with little Alex.
So now you got 2014 now, I think.
No, I'm getting behind here. I got to look at my notes here. It's not like we're doing this all of memory, right?
That's right. We got to have a little bit of notes.
Yeah. 2014. Hey, back to Holmesville again in 2014 there. John Weaver was somebody I knew pretty well. He handled a lot of dogs. He was running in the Prina series a lot, and he lived not too far from there. And I asked him to come over and kind of, hey, help us with this event, and he did so graciously and had good entries again there. Dave McVeigh, a Beagle guy. He judged the show that year and had good entries again. Our winners that year, Caleb Driggs was 14 out of West Virginia, hunting a dog named Chandler's Wipeout Grace. A Treen Walker female scored 650 that weekend, that Saturday night. The other winners were Colton Dunlap. You probably heard of Colton Dunlap. Another guy that's went on to do a lot of good still hunts today out of Ohio. Willard Bush Jr. of Ohio was one of the winners. And then William Head, also of Ohio. So one kid, Caleb Driggs from West Virginia. The other winners were all from Ohio. And our bench show winner was Vincent Abrams. He was a 13-year-old from Ohio, showed a dog that Grand Champion, Confirmation Champion, Gold Dust War Eagle. And that was a dog that was owned by Phil Newland. I mentioned he did one of the seminars, and I remember Phil brought this Vincent Abrams to the show, and I think that's the first and last time I saw him. But I don't know whatever happened to that kid, but I remember him showing that dog that day. He did a great job, and he had done his homework, and he ended up winning the show.
Next year in 2015, again, we're still here living in late July, and we're moving back to northern Indiana here, Peru, Indiana. the officials that weekend. Steve Dunn was the master of hounds, and this was, the best I could tell, the hunt format changes for the first time this year. And I don't know if you took away that you had to be qualified at state championships and became kind of an open type deal. Best I could surmise by looking at the results and reading into it is that on Friday night was a qualifying night. All the dogs hunted. You took the cast winners from Friday and they advanced to Saturday night and hunted amongst themselves with cast winners, and then the open ones were able to hunt by themselves. And then you took the cast winners from these winners that hunted from Friday night to Saturday, and you took the highest scoring double cast winner, and that was your overall champion. That's the best I could tell from the results. Does that seem like I'm on the right page here?
And that was right. That was right. Yeah.
And the overall winner that year, the youth national champion, was Hutch Wheeler, a 14-year-old from Georgia, hunting a dog named Night Champion. Mackenzie's Little Molly ended up winning his cast on Friday night with 250 plus to advance to the champions bracket or the winners bracket, however you would want to call it, on Saturday, and won his cast on Saturday night with 600 plus. Ended up winning it with 850 combined score over the 2 nights. Next one's in line here that also got a $2,500 tuition awards were Alex Maupin of Tennessee. Obviously, no Alex there from Northeast Tennessee, a hard hunter, still hunts today. Dwight Burkett of Indiana, and Storm Smith of West Virginia. And of course, some of these other guys, still could be active in the hunts. It's just who you know from personal relationships, and you see around at some of the major events that we go to. It looked like there was also a new show format this year. And you're bringing in now to where it's the same as it is now, where you're breaking them down into their age categories in the show, where it's based on showmanship just as much as it is the quality of the dog, sometimes how informed you are on breed standards or bench show rules or different things that the judge is asking you. And that first year you enlisted Penny Jessup to be your bench show judge, and you had 29 different kids competing. And now you can't enter multiple dogs like we were seeing in past years. Now you have to pick your one dog to enter in with. You compete against people in your age, the same age as you. So if I'm 15, I'm showing against other 15-year-olds, and if I win my 15-year-old age class, I get to come back in and compete with the other winners from 13 to 17 for senior. Then the juniors are from 5 to 12 again, and so that's the same format as it is today. So you guys are probably pretty familiar with this. The first year of it being this way, the bench show senior champion was Zach Boring. He was 15 years old from Missouri, showing a dog named Rockstar's Legend in the Making, a Tree and Walker male. And the bench show junior national champion was Lily Sawville, 11-year-old from Michigan, showing confirmation champion, grand champion Diamond Rock's Little Country Boy.
That was the first year we went to that format for the show that you mentioned, and it was honestly, it was a little it was not that well received. I was a little discouraged by that and disappointed maybe, but we've stuck with it, and I think it took a little bit to kind of get that idea. It was kind of geared more along the lines of a 4-H type of a show, a little bit more, judge the kids a little bit and at their own skill set. That was the whole idea. But here's where it all started. But and I had Penny Turner to judge it that year. And I just thought, and she did a seminar of it, and she did a great job. She was a school teacher, and I thought, who better than for this first one? And she did a great job putting something together, and I put it on a disc and everything for her there, and I still have it on my computer that I still share whenever I want to for any of the judges, for some ideas or whatever. But she did a great job with it, and that's she kind of set the standards that year for this format, and we kind of still go by a lot of that. So the next year we went to West Virginia, first time going to West Virginia. I remember one of our field reps, Jamie Estep, was very much involved with making this happen, a good facility. I remember one of the things had it in a big old barn, and half of it they had like turf grass down in the building. The other part was dirt, where they had vendors inside there and everything, but the front half of it they had turf down. And I remember we had sack races in there. Even I got in a sack, and everybody's making fun of it. Yeah. So, but that was in 2016. Lindell Price was the master of hounds, and he did the bench show and everything that year. He was our official for the year. Good entries there again that year. Our winners that were Drake Chastain. We'll hear this name a couple times, but at this time he was 14 years old. He's out of Georgia. There's somebody else. He's got at least one kid, maybe two. I think he's got another one on the way here, but good young kid hunting an English male dog named Big Oconee River Trigger. Scored 450 plus on Friday and 200 plus on Saturday, and he won. He was our overall winner in the senior division. And then he was $2,500 scholarship winners was Drake Chastain, and then Peyton Brady of West Virginia. His dad is one that I think in the very first one we mentioned, his dad placed second. Here his boy Peyton also placed second here, so that was pretty cool. Hunter Weiskup of Iowa was one of the winners there, and then Alyssa Barnes of West Virginia. Those were winners there. Our bench show senior champion that year was a kid by the name of Corey Miller, a 15-year-old out of Pennsylvania. The dog that he showed was Laurel Valley Backwoods Boondocker, and that is Kelly Myers' boy now is who that was. The junior champion that year was Hunter Bengala, 12-year-old out of Ohio with West Fork, Kentucky River Trouble in Paradise was the name of the female, and so that was our first winners there in West Virginia in 2016.
2017, you guys are going west, about as far west as you've ever been, actually by a pretty good distance here, going to Seneca, Missouri. And we all, most people listening to this are going to know that's an awesome place of the country to host a hunt. There's a lot of good club support around there, some really good hunting. And one note I made in here, this is the first time that I see it mentioned that you guys did Spotlight Series awards. Was that about when it first came around that time frame?
It was, yeah,
okay.
Sure was. That was the first year, and we set it up, to have our winners for the series to end and be able to recognize our winners. So that would have started the first year. So now we've had our very first year of Spotlight Series up to that point, and we recognized our winners here.
Yeah, and you can't talk about the Spotlight Series, the Next Generation Spotlight Series, without talking about our Master of Hounds from the weekend, Mr. Ray Conrad from Bright Eyes Lights.
And he was the sponsor already of youth or the Spotlight Series right from the get-go, and he came all the way out there and was involved. We used him as the official, but yeah, there's a lot of kids that got lights that first year.
Yeah, so we sure appreciate that, and we'll probably be doing some Spotlight Series, some content here soon, because that's winding down here. By the time you listen to this, that series year will be over. We'll be on the next series year here, but for our 2017 youth national champion in the hunt side was Hunter Harris, a 17-year-old from there in Missouri, and he was hunting Grand Night champion Pin Oaks Charlie Brown, a plot male. Scored 150 plus on Friday, and then in the winners bracket won his cast with 375 plus. Other scholarship winners that year, again, Drake Chastain of Georgia, he added to his total there. Colton Brizendine of Oklahoma, and then Brooklyn Roller of Missouri. Our youth bench show national champions that year with Kay Haley judging the show actually had 49 kids in her, so you could see it's kind of catching on now. Only 29 that first year, but we saw it bump up to 46, and now we're at 49. So you're getting more and more kids into it. Senior winner that year, Jessie Brooks, 15-year-old, all the way up from in Ontario, Canada, showing her own black and tan here. Small-time split-second striker. And the junior national champion that year was Judd Koshko. He was 12 years old at the time from Missouri, showing Deepwater Ike.
Two things I remember of that. One thing I mentioned, Madison, Wisconsin, or Madison, North Carolina, when it was so hot one year. This weekend in Seneca there, it was actually right on the Oklahoma-Missouri line is where it is. It was also super, super hot. Yeah. But it was still a lot of fun, good event. And the other thing I remember about that they had on Friday night, they had some dancers out there. A lot of the Indians had put on a show out there. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So the next year we're going back to Ohio, Salina, Ohio. Nice fairgrounds there in Salina, Ohio. There's a few things I remember about this one, but a great facility, a lot of big big shade trees, and man, if they had some good solid clubs, I know they have a couple, but it's a great place to have a coon hunt or a big major event. Salina, Ohio, there at the fairgrounds. Corey Groover was the Master Hounds and the bench show judge. I had some good numbers there again that year. I'm thinking Corey was working here at UKC at the time already, I think. But he did the officiating, and I remember he did the judges seminar that year. And one of the things I remember that he did, he had a something up on the screen. But one of the things that stuck out to me that I remember from him that I hadn't seen in a bench show seminar is he touched a little bit on the garments that the kids wear. And something that is not, in other words, don't wear a black shirt or black pants and a black shirt if you're showing a black and tan. He said, I don't want to look at you. I want your dog to stand out. You should, presenting your dog in the best possible way. So he actually had examples there of somebody, with maybe with a white shirt that is showing this dog, and then the same dog with that person showing with a black shirt on, and just the contrast, the difference, how much more the dog stood out. But I remember he touched on that, and I've not really seen a seminar that anybody else do where they brought that up, but I always remember that about Corey doing that. I thought it was pretty neat. And this was, let me see, this was the first time for
new
juniors.
format in the hunt. Yeah.
Huh?
New format in the hunt to where it's
New
just like it
format
is
for the
today.
hunt, yeah. Yep. And this was the first time we awarded a junior and a senior national champion. So it separated them. Before it was, they put them together, and then it was just by score, basically one overall winner. But now we have a junior and a senior winner in the hunt part. Tuition awards were divided a little bit differently. We set that up before. It was always just everybody got $2,500. So now we made the overall winners a little bit more. 2 nights of hunting, and then a late round final fours in each category. Each category meaning in the junior division and senior division. And probably we've changed that since then, but that's where we tried it, But quite frankly, for the younger kids, as it turned out, it was a little much to have them hunt out in a late round. They had trouble enough. They might have been on a high if they came back winners, but coming back to the clubhouse, and by the time they got back out for a hunt off, you were lucky to have 1 or 2 of them still being awake.
Yeah, for sure.
But here again, the night hunt senior champion, Drake Chastain out of Georgia. He's 16 years old at the time, but this time he was hunting his Grand Night dog, Double Rat Buster. A dog that he did quite a bit of winning with for a lot of years, 400 plus Friday and 150 Saturday, and he got $3,000 for the win. Bumped it up another $500 for the winner there, and each of the other third or second through fourth in the final 4, they each got $2,000. And then we had our winner in the junior division, Lane Doan of Indiana, Eli Keller of Ohio, and Cody Burrows of Indiana. No, those were the final 4 in the senior division.
That's right.
Right. Second, third, and fourth. And then the junior champion was a young lady she was 9 years old. You might have heard of her, Izzy Ish. And if you're on Facebook much, you follow the Ish family a little bit. She is smacking a lot of balls across the fence in high school now, and she's quite the athlete for sure. But Izzy Ish was 9 years old at the time. Remember, Roy Swafford was working up here doing the Beagle stuff, and he went along too. And I remember he was pitching balls to Izzy, and her little brother Eli were smacking them around out there in the yard. Red Ruby Hardtime Buck, an English male, is what she won with. I had a good score, 650 and 200 plus, and so we gave $1,000 to the first place junior champion. So moving on to the bench show, winner Hannah Emery was 17 at the time out of North Carolina, and she showed Wabash River Muddy Banks. She won the senior division in the show, and our junior division winner was Ambriana Wire. It was only 6 years old at the time, West Virginia, with Canyon Creek Cherry Bomb, a Treeing Walker female, is who Corey selected as winners in the show. But 2018.
Next year, 2019, Peru, Indiana, and now we're at my first Youth Nationals. We went out there to Peru, Indiana. They're at I guess it's their clubhouse right across from Russ Beller's deer farm there, and got to tour it. That was a pretty memorable thing to see.
Same location where we had it, where we did the first show under the new format by age class. Same place, yeah.
Yeah, if I remember, again, it's in late July. You're going to run into that some years where it's just gets so hot and that it's a little bit dangerous. I remember that year we actually bumped down the times from 90 minutes to 60 minutes each night, but we still had, over 111 kids over 2 nights combined hunting in the hunt. Rich Emery was our Master of Hounds both nights, and the overall winner was, in the senior division, our senior national champion on the hunt side was Drew Eastep. He was 16 years old then, from West Virginia. Hunt national Grand Night champion 2, Grand Champion Dark Side of Schooner River. Drew obviously judges a lot of casts for us now at major events. Still pretty active when his dad can drag him out long enough to go hunting with him. He won Friday night with 125 plus and Saturday night with 100 plus, and it was good enough to get him in the Final Four, where he took first place overall in the $3,000 tuition award. Second through fourth, again, got $2,000 each in the tuition award. Had Gage Beebe out of Indiana, Devin Carruthers of West Virginia, and Jackson Robinson from down in Georgia. The junior division national champion that year was Wade Tappy. He was only 10 years old then, and I'll never kind of forget that. After that first round, he was dragging. He was pretty tired. You could tell he didn't really want to go out on that final cast. But when he got back from the final cast, he was sure high stepping, and he won it all that year. He won the $1,000 tuition award on the junior side with night champion Rock Creek Country Club. That's a dog that has become pretty well known throughout the years since then. Just a young dog at the time. On the bench show side, Rich's wife here, Janet Emery, judges the bench show for the second year. She did it obviously back in the very beginning of it, and she sorted through the entries here. Ended up with bench show senior national champion was Ava Newcomb. She was 16 years old from Indiana there, and won it with Newcomb's Money Moves. And then the junior national champion was Morgan Elbert, 10 years old at the time from Indiana, with her hound Red Eagle Outlaw in the city. Those two were a formidable team, and not going to be the last time we hear their names here for sure.
Yeah, moving on to 2020, that was the year of COVID. So in that year, you should probably speak on this one here, but this one we had to move to October. July, everything was still pretty much shut down that year, and we had it set up for Flatwoods, West Virginia, but it was postponed that year, moved it down to October due to the COVID restrictions, and then we also just made it a one-day event due to school time limitations and everything, with Friday and everything. So made it instead of a Friday-Saturday, just a Saturday deal. Jamie Eastep, our rep down here, was very much involved with it. Had 42 entries in the hunt even in that year still, and 31 dogs in the bench show. Wayne Steele won the world show with a plot dog here several years ago. Winners that night, just early round cast winners. I guess that's all you did that year. Just took the score of the first round. Didn't do any hunt-offs or anything like that. Another girl, Maddie Smith, 14 of Indiana. That is
Jason Smith's daughter.
Jason Smith's daughter, yep. That's it. And again with Dark Side of Schooner River. River is what they called her. That dog won Autumn Oaks and everything. Now she's won the Youth Nationals twice for senior division kids, 2 years in a row actually. This time for Maddie Smith, and the year before we mentioned Drew Eastep handled this dog. She got the $3,000 that year, and then the $2,000 recipients were Alyssa Barnes of West Virginia. This is the second time now we hear Alyssa's name. Eli Booton of West Virginia, and then let me see. The junior champion was Haley Badillion. I think you only had 3 winners there that year. I guess is
only 3 plus point cast winners earlier.
That's why. Yep. The junior champion and Haley Badillion, 12-year-old out of Pennsylvania, with Jones's Country Boy Toby, black and tan, scored 375, and he was your $1,000 winner that year. In the bench show, senior champion was Haley Rorvik, was 14 at the time, out of Indiana, Morgan's sister. Wabash River two-timing Romeo was a leopard male that she showed and won with. The junior show was Morgan Elburn again, 12 now this year, out of Indiana again with Red Eagle Outlaw in the City. Second year she's won it now. And at that time, I think the Spotlight Series, she was cleaning house and did a lot of winning in that year and a half or so. And then you also had 22 kids entered a confirmation show on that Saturday morning as well. So you had a couple different shows that year, even though it was just a one-day event.
Yeah, I tried to do some different things to actually make it worthwhile for people to come for a one-day event, and I was sure happy that we were able to make it happen. For the longest time, we thought it would just be flat out canceled, but to give kids something to come to. And I made a note here on mine. Nicole Sedlecki, who's our vice president now, she came to this when it was her first, and we've been to several together now. And this year we were setting up, just me and her there setting up on Friday afternoon, and all of a sudden I just stopped in my tracks. I said, "Oh my gosh, we forgot the lights for the winners," and that makes me think of Tony Bills from Michigan, who has since passed, but. He made it a point to come to pretty much all of these youth nationals there for several years, and for the National Playhound Association, and he brought them down to us. And man, he was one guy I met pretty early on in Michigan, and I'll always think about Tony Bills. He'd do pretty much anything for anyone. One of the good guys, but. Yeah, that was a big blunder that we got corrected pretty easy there, but. I went out on the final cast that night. Obviously we didn't have much going on because it was just one night event, so I didn't have to focus on anything else really. And not a good year to go out on a final cast in Flatwoods, West Virginia. But we had a videographer with us who was putting together a video, and I did a lot better than he did. I can say that. He was. I'll turn around and he was sliding down the mountain and everything else. So we ended up sending him back to the truck. But you live and you learn. You live and you learn. The next year we actually head back out west, not far from where it was in Seneca, Missouri, but now we're in Miami, Oklahoma. I gotta say it right for the listeners out there. Our Master of Hounds that year, James Chandler, and again it was hot as all get out. I remember again driving there on the way, and about halfway there I get a call from Jennifer Cummings that we've just found out that the building that we were going to use is under renovation, unknown to us, any of us, and so we had to do everything from an open sided pavilion, and you just couldn't get away from the heat that weekend. But the kids were there, and we still have made the best of it and had a good time. We had over 80 entries on the 2 nights combined. And night hunt senior division national champion that year was actually someone who had won the show prior, Judd Koshko, 16-year-old of Missouri. He was hunting a dog named Schooner River Hart. Won with 200 plus on Friday and same score on Saturday, and then in the final 4 he had 2 1/4, and that got him a $3,000 tuition award. Second through fourth each got $2,000 tuition award each. Cooper Watley from Arkansas, Evan Ross from down in Mississippi, and then Sydney Davis from Missouri, and she's done pretty well in these youth events. The junior night hunt champion that year was Ryan Bills. He was 11 years old from Iowa, hunting Saylorsville Star Comet, a Tree and Walker female, and he got in with 200 plus score on Saturday, and in the final 4 he was able to get 375 plus to get his $1,000 tuition award. And our bench show national champions that year were a couple young ladies who were super talented. It was fun to watch them. Hannah Cable, she was 14-year-old this year. From Ohio, showing her own dog, the Midnight Gambler. And then we have again here for the 3rd year in a row, the bench show junior national champion was Morgan Elbert, and she was 12 this year. You wonder how she's 12 this year and the year before, but that's because of they getting pushed back to October. So she got to actually show as a 12-year-old for 2 years here because of the way the dates fell. And she won it all this year with a different dog, Wabash River Rhinestone Cowgirl. So those were her 3 in a row there that she won a national champions. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, so the next year in 2022 went back over to Medina again. This is what, the 3rd or 4th time now to be at Medina. But Mark Bear, blue tick guy, he was a Master of Hounds, and then Tiffany Schmersel judged the show there. Night Hunt senior winner in 2022 was a Jolin Beachy, a 17-year-old kid from Ohio. He hunted Insane Diamond Attack, a male. He was a 2-night cast winner there, combined score of 425 plus there. He was their $3,000 tuition winner. 2nd through 4th, they each got $2,000. Jacob Whitlock of Indiana, Tyler Chastain, that's Drake Chastain's little brother. He is now in the money as well from Georgia, and then Austin Seaton out of Ohio. This year he did away with the junior final cast, and I think that was a very good move there. It just went by total, just by score there in the junior division, and that's plenty good enough. We have one winner there. And the junior champion that year, Colton Shockley, was 8 years old at the time from Ohio, hunting Colton's Big Boomer, a dog that's we saw at Autumn Oaks, I think, won the English part at Autumn Oaks a year or 2 ago, maybe. Seems like I might be off here. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was a $1,000 junior winner. And then in the bench show, Katie Wood was 17 at the time from Indiana. She showed this. Her blue tick Woods is all black, or a blue blackjack, a blue tick male that she owned. She did a lot of showing with. Katie's an excellent handler. 17-year-old here at the time. This would have been her last year of eligibility, obviously. And then another 10-year-old from Indiana, Colton Rorvik, with Wabash River. She's a wonder too, a Tring Walker female. Yeah, so that was back in Medina in 2022.
Yeah.
Then you also did a total junior award for handlers of some sort. You had a special class that year, I think. You had something different you did that year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty neat. I don't know if the interest was there or not, but if you had a plus point cast win and also won or actually placed in your age class in the show, then we had a special award from you. I don't know if it caught on too much, but would love to see a little bit more overlap between the entries there for people. But the next year, 2023, it went down to Elizabethtown, Kentucky for the first time, and that's a strong state for UKC, and was glad to get it down there. Had a lot of participation, and honestly, starting to see the numbers starting to grow here over the past several years. I don't know if you noticed it here. We're up over, mid 50 dogs a night here in the hunt, and Jamie Eastep again was the master of hounds here. He's a field rep for us. He's real passionate about the kids, and honestly, he gets a little peeved with me a little bit if I don't offer it to him first off and let him turn it down first. But he's a big proponent of the youth and always a big help there. The youth national champion that year in the senior division was Brooke Sneed. She was 14 this year, and she's from North Carolina. She was hunting a dog named No Name Emp. Her and Ep got two and a quarter on Friday, 175 on Saturday, and then in the final four she had 2 1/4 to secure her $3,000 tuition award and first place overall. Second through fourth, each getting $2,000 in tuition, was Logan Dillon of West Virginia, Dixie Mans of West Virginia, and Hayden Bartram of Indiana. So three that I know that are still pretty active in the hunts, along with Brooks. So that's awesome to see. They weren't just kind of one-offs, or ones that are sticking with it a little bit. You love to see that. In the junior division, the youth national champion was Josh Ashley. He's 12 years old, from right there around where the event was in Kentucky. And he had 175 plus on Friday night with a little female named Full Throttle Tootsie Roll, who ended up, actually, they figured out she was in heat on Saturday morning and said, man, are we just out of luck or what? No, if you can hunt a different dog tonight if she is in fact in heat, and you have to hunt him. And they had switched up. He hunted a dog named Country's Big Nasty, a blue tick, and got 175 plus and won his cast again. So he secured his $1,000 tuition award by doubling up there. Impressive feat to be able to win with not just one different dog, but 2 different dogs. The bench show senior champion that year, under the watchful eye of Kayla Cooper, who has since come on board and is a member of UKC's all breed sports team over on the other side of the office there. She sorted through 46 show entries, so it was a pretty impressive show entry that year. Hunter Shiflett was a senior winner, 17 years old, from Virginia, with Rockin' W's Luke at Me, who was a blue tick male. And the junior national champion was Brooke Bally, 11-year-old from Wisconsin, showing Skylines, Stay in Your Lane.
Yeah, that brings us to the last one, 2024. Last year, went back out west again, Dowds, Iowa. Tim Gilchrist was your official there and had pretty good numbers there. Tim is another field rep. Matter of fact, just as we're recording this, I took a quick little trip to Iowa and sat there with Tim and his wife for a little bit, Tuesday, I guess it was. Had Autumn Bingham judging the show. We've mentioned that name several times throughout, winning the shows. Her maiden name was Beeland, Autumn Beeland, now married to Jake Bingham, also from Iowa. Had a pretty decent show there. But your night hunt winners, again, Brooke Sneed out of North Carolina, again with No Name Ep, second year in a row that she's winning. So this is only the second 2-time winner, right? So you had Frederick.
We're going to get to that.
Okay.
We're going to get to that.
Okay. So $3,000 winner there. So that's up to about $6,000 for college stuff. Final four, second through fourth, Dane Blessing of Missouri, John Matthew Cumby of Tennessee, and Kason Apple of Iowa were the other $2,000 tuition award winners. The junior champion that year was Jackson Cable, seven years old last year. With less fame, more fortune was the dog he hunted, and he had a good score on Friday night and another score on Saturday night. He was a $1,000 tuition winner there, but Jackson's somebody you see quite a bit here. And one of the things I remember that was pretty cool, I thought, here about the next couple of days, he had a Facebook page up with him and his dog and his everything out there, and he was thanking all the people for all the calls and everything. That was a pretty neat little recording he did, thanking everybody.
Yeah.
Bench Show Senior Champion last year, Hannah Cable was her last year in it. Hannah's done a whole lot, has been very successful. It's just a excellent handler. She showed her own dog, Confirmation Champion, Grand Champion Hall of Fame, the Midnight Gambler. That's a Plott male. She won it last year in the junior division. Colton Rorvik again, now 12. He won the junior division with Autumn Oaks winner, Wabash River Lost Highway, Redbone male. Went on last year also to win the World Show. But so there's your winners from last year, and that kind of brings us up to where we are and as far as history goes.
Yeah. And I'll always remember that one. It seems like it might be out of the middle of where the pocket is, but man, there's a strong group of clubs up there in the southern Iowa and northern Missouri range with a lot of good kids. We had good entries and some great hunts, and really enjoyed myself up there. So, all in all, we can put a bow on it here as we're rounding it up. But all in all, over the 24 years that have happened so far, $221,000 in tuition awards have been awarded to these youth hunt winners here at Youth Nationals. So I think it's turned out to be a really, really great thing for the youth in our sport. Real quick to look at the history of event, we've kind of sorted through it one by one. Let's look at a broad picture of it. First by location, it's been in Indiana 7 times, Ohio 7 times, North Carolina twice, West Virginia twice, and then 1 each for Iowa, Kentucky, Missouri, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, and Tennessee. And some cities that have hosted the event multiple times, of course, Shelbyville, Indiana, there, the first 3 events in the history of the event, Holmesville, Ohio, and then Medina, Ohio, 2 times each, Madison, North Carolina, and Peru, Indiana. And this year, Indiana's going to get the one up on Ohio, because here in a couple months, in July, the end of July, we're going to be heading to the home of Autumn Oaks there, Milton, Indiana, just a short drive down the road from the Wayne County Fairgrounds. The Liberty Club along with the Wayne County Club are going to be having it there in Milton, Indiana. It's going to be an awesome event for the 25th anniversary. I've talked to Angie Cable and Tyler Stroh with the club there, and man, they have some big plans to make it a whole big deal. So I hope you're making plans to bring the youth out there, get them involved. It's going to be an awesome time for all. It's a great venue. There's going to be air conditioner, so that's big for our staff. That's going to be coming. That's something they get on to me about a little bit. But let's break down the hunt winners a little bit, because I thought this was pretty interesting. There's been 31 national champions on the hunt side. So obviously some years there were just one. There's been multiple years now where there were 2 winners when we broke them up. The age breakdown. The leading age is actually 12-year-olds. They've won it 6 times, 2 times since they broke them apart in 2018. So they actually won more before the split than they did after the split, which was kind of interesting to me. And then also 14-year-olds have won it 6 times. 17-year-olds have won it 5 times. 16-year-olds have won it 4 times. 15-year-olds have won it 3 times. 9 and 10-year-olds have won it 2 times each. And then one-time winners are 7, 8, and 11-year-olds. And we've yet to see, obviously 5 and 6-year-olds, that's understandable, but we have yet to see a 13-year-old winner in the 24-year history of the event.
Maybe this year.
State breakdown. Indiana's produced 6 winners. Georgia and Ohio has produced 5 winners. Tennessee has 3 winners. Missouri, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia has produced 2 each. And then Arkansas, Iowa, Kentucky, and Texas has produced 1 each. And then we have 3 multiple-time champions, Alan. One, Brooks Sneed, obviously the past 2 years. Drake Chastain won it in 2016 and 2018, and then Ryan Frederick won it in 2012 and 2017. And the average age of the winners before the 2 winners were crowned in 2018, so I thought this was kind of relevant. So we're talking about before he ended up splitting them up, 13.7 years old. So not as skewed as you might think, but I think it's still giving an opportunity for some younger handlers to win that thing. We can look on the show side of things real quick. That obviously you split up those before you did the hunt, so we've actually had 34 national champions on the show side, and the age with the most winners. Kind of no surprise here, especially early on. You have 7 17-year-old winners. 12-year-olds do really well in this event. They've had 6 winners. 5 winners for the 15-year-olds. 4 16-year-old winners, 3 14-year-old winners, and winning it 2 times each. You have 10, 11, and 13, and then 1 6-year-old winner. So that was Ambriana Wire way back whenever Corey Groover judged the show.
Yeah, and that was when you split up the juniors and the seniors. After that.
Yeah. And there was two of them in there who didn't have their age listed, so I don't know how that skews our standings here, but that was the case there. State breakdowns for the shows. Indiana's leading the way here as well with 9 national champions. Pennsylvania, I kind of noticed it as we were going. We mentioned Pennsylvania a lot. They've had 7 national champions. Ohio's produced 4. North Carolina's produced 3. 2 each for Kentucky, Missouri, Virginia, and West Virginia. And then Michigan, Wisconsin, and then the one lone lady from Ontario, Canada has won it 1 time each. Multiple winners on the show side. We have Miss Morgan Elburn with her incredible run from 2019 through 2021, where she won it 3 times in a row. So she did left her mark on this event. 2 times each. Autumn Beeland, who's now Bingham, like you mentioned, she won in 2008 and 2012 before she just judged it last year in 2024, and kind of a full circle cool moment for her. Colton Warvick's won the thing twice now, 2022 and 2024, and let's see, he showed as a 12-year-old last year. Yeah, 12-year-old, so man, he's got some years left to try to catch and pass his sister there. Could happen. And then Hannah Cable won it twice with her hound Gambler in 2021 and 2024. And this is where it became evident that you really needed to split the, like you guys did, ended up splitting the show up and making it a little bit different. The average age of the winners before you started splitting them in 2015 was over 15 years old, so it kind of had a bearing on that.
Yeah. One thing that I think is pretty cool about this and that is the 2-time winners of the show, where you have a Autumn Beelan, who is married, has kids now, still on the records list here. But then that's followed up by Colton Rorvik, who is maybe this year just bumps into the senior class, for the first time.
Yeah. And
then along with somebody that just aged out, Hannah Cable. But it's kind of cool to see that diverse list of 3 individuals in that column, 2-time winners.
Unbeknownst to her, she actually she made Colton and Hannah join her in that, because she picked both of them as national champions just last year. So kind of ironic.
Yeah.
And there is a note here to say Judd Koshko is the only one to ever be a national champion in the hunting show by winning the show in 2017 and the hunt in 2021.
So there you go. It has been done.
And real quick,
not in the same year, but it's happened.
Yeah, that would be tough. And before we put a bow on it here, we'll go over some of the officials for the event. There's been 27 Master of Hounds at this event, and there's been, 5 men who have done it 2 times each. David Garden, James Brown, Jamie E. Stepp, John Hembry, and Larry Hawk. And Jamie, he's gonna jump up that list. God willing, he's on the books to do Youth Nationals for us this year. Be our Master of Hounds there in Milton, Indiana, in July. Bench show judges, over the 24 judges that we've enlisted do Youth Nationals for us, 3 of them have done it multiple times. Jana Emery, John Hembry, and Lindell Price. And there's been a select number of fellas here. See, there's 4 guys here that have done double duty. Corey Groovers wore both hats, obviously did them both in 2018. John Hembry has done bench show judge twice and Master of Hounds twice. Lindell Price was a bench show judge twice and the Master of Hound once, and Tony Ford was both double duty back in 2012. So, man, that's the history of the event, about as in depth as I can get on it after scouring through 24 different magazines for it.
We winners at Autumn Oaks and on Sunday morning. Everybody, the atmosphere is great at Autumn Oaks, and the Winter Classic, same thing. You see all the winners on the morning of an event, and it's just an atmosphere. But I don't think there's one quite the same as the winners at Youth Nationals. One thing that's different about Youth Nationals, a lot of especially some of the younger hunters, when it's draw out time, they already have their boots on, they've got their lights on, they've got their squallers hanging, they are ready to go. They're ready to rock. That's you see that, and when they come in, they are just happy. They're up there smiling and just excited, and their parents are excited for them. There's just so much good that's come from having a national championship. And not that, the other thing I think is with our youth handler programs that we have for youth shows, especially, man, how many kids have learned so much. It's opened a door for young handlers, a platform for them to start at the youth events handling dogs, and just look at the number of good, outstanding handlers that started here in this, using this platform. It's amazing, and I think it just really goes to show how important and why it is so important to have events for kids to participate in. And it's not just that, we can never do enough, as far as teaching. And anytime you have a youth event, I think it's a perfect opportunity to also teach. And I think a lot of clubs, a lot of associations that put on youth events, they do just that. And we can't do enough of it at our Youth National Championship, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And as I'm signing off here, I want to thank all the parents that have taken their kids here to participate in it. Not only parents, but grandparents, friends of the family, just mentors, things like that, the host clubs. And we can't forget about the guides and the non-hunting judges. Obviously a thankless job, but these events can't happen without you, and that goes for any youth event in the country. And as you're listening to this, I hope you guys are making plans. July 18th and 19th, Milton, Indiana, the 25th anniversary of UKC Youth Nationals. Make plans to be there. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be an awesome time, so we'll see you there.
Alan, you've been feeding Eukanuba dog feed for a while now. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have, and I've really been able to put my beagles to the test, mainly running snowshoe hare up north where they run the hardest, where I put 15, 20, 25 miles on them easily in a day. And I've found that the premium performance sport has really paid dividends. Mainly, I noticed their stamina.
Yeah, same feed that I've been feeding. I think my dog looks good on it. He's really feeling good, and less kennel cleanup for me, so I highly recommend it as well.
Eukanuba, the official performance dog nutrition partner of UKC.
Thank you for listening to the UKC Hunting Ops Podcast. Be sure to give us a follow so you don't miss any of our new episodes or content.